Palace Entries by Presley Prince Jr. Addoh, The Survival Guide. The Heir's Ascension Saga. The Heir's Ascension Saga centers on a prince who is already king in title, lineage, and destiny. The throne is his from the beginning, but the true journey begins when he finally steps into the full reality of his position. His ascension is not about claiming power, but about embodying it so completely that he becomes the standard by which the entire kingdom measures itself. As he assumes his role, every action, discipline, sacrifice, and decision establishes the bar that the rest of society is expected to follow and strive toward. Nobles, soldiers, scholars, and citizens alike begin shaping themselves around the example he sets, because his presence represents order, purpose, and excellence in an age that desperately needs direction. The saga explores how a ruler's character can elevate an entire civilization. Chapter 1: Execute. Execution is the moment preparation becomes reality. In any craft, whether it is business, art, sports, writing, music, or leadership, you must prepare yourself with discipline, repetition, study, and patience before you ever expect the world to recognize your ability. Preparation builds confidence because confidence is earned through work done in silence. You sharpen your skills when nobody is watching, strengthen your mindset when challenges appear, and develop consistency through practice long before success arrives. But preparation alone is never enough. Too many people spend their lives planning, thinking, waiting, and doubting while opportunities pass them by. True growth happens when preparation meets execution. You must step forward, apply what you learned, and perform with courage even when conditions are imperfect. Every successful person understands that fear, uncertainty, and failure are part of the process, but they execute anyway. Success belongs to those who refuse to remain stuck in hesitation. Every time you prepare, you must also commit to action. Execute with belief, execute with intensity, and execute with resilience. Learn from mistakes, improve your craft, and continue moving forward without quitting. The world rewards those who consistently show up prepared and willing to act. No matter the obstacle, no matter the pressure, no matter the setback, you keep executing until your vision becomes reality. That is how success is built, through preparation, action, persistence, and the refusal to stop until you succeed. Track number 1: Race. Race is a powerful anthem about perseverance, determination, and refusing to quit no matter how difficult the journey becomes. The song captures the feeling of being pushed to your limits while still finding the strength to move forward. It reminds listeners that life is not about competing with others, but about staying focused on your own path and continuing your race despite obstacles, pressure, or exhaustion. Even when you feel like you are running out of breath, struggling, or falling behind, the message is to keep going because every challenge is part of the journey toward growth and success. The track encourages resilience, self-belief, and the courage to push through pain and doubt, showing that true victory comes from never giving up on yourself. Storyline for Race. The story begins with a young dreamer running through the darkest season of his life, carrying years of silent preparation on his back while the world around him doubts his ability to succeed. Every early morning, every lonely night, every failure, and every sacrifice became part of his training, teaching him discipline, patience, and resilience long before anyone noticed his potential. As pressure builds and exhaustion begins to crush his spirit, he realizes that life is not a race against other people but a battle against fear, hesitation, and the temptation to quit. The track follows his journey as he pushes forward despite pain, setbacks, and moments where he feels completely out of breath, reminding himself that preparation means nothing without execution. With every obstacle, he chooses action over excuses, courage over comfort, and persistence over surrender. Even when he falls behind, he refuses to stop running because he understands that true success belongs to those who continue moving forward when others give up. Race becomes an anthem of endurance and self-belief, showing that victory is earned by those who execute with heart, learn from struggle, and keep running toward their vision until it becomes reality. Track number 2: Debate. Victory leaves no room for hesitation or debate. When the goal is greatness, you have to move with relentless speed and purpose, leaving your competition choking in the dust behind you. There's no looking back to see who's catching up and no slowing down to make others comfortable, because every second spent doubting yourself is a second someone else could use to take your place. The mindset of a true winner is built on pressure, discipline, and the refusal to settle for good enough. You keep pushing forward with tunnel vision, outworking, outlasting, and outperforming everyone around you until the gap between you and the competition becomes impossible to close. In the end, dominance belongs to the person willing to stay focused, stay hungry, and keep accelerating while everyone else fades into the wind. Storyline for debate. Marcus stepped onto the debate stage with the same mindset he carried into every competition: hesitation was defeat. While other students joked in the hallways or second-guessed their arguments, he stayed locked in, studying evidence until sunrise and sharpening every rebuttal like a weapon. Each round became a demolition, his words hitting with relentless speed and precision, leaving opponents scrambling to keep up as judges watched in stunned silence. He never looked back at rankings, never cared who felt intimidated, because greatness demanded tunnel vision and absolute discipline. The pressure only fueled him harder. Every victory pushed him to train longer, think faster, and speak sharper than anyone else in the room. By the time nationals arrived, the gap between Marcus and the competition had become impossible to ignore. While others cracked under stress, he accelerated through it, dominating every debate with cold focus and unstoppable hunger until his name alone became enough to make opponents nervous before a round even started. Track number 3, Now. Now is about recognizing when something real is in front of you and not wasting time pretending you'll always get another chance. When a woman is the right one for you, it doesn't feel confusing or half-hearted, it feels clear, steady, and undeniable in a way that stands out from everything else. The mistake a lot of people make is assuming that connection will just wait while they figure themselves out or play games to feel in control, but real connection doesn't pause for hesitation. If you know she's someone worth having in your life, the honest move is to show up fully, communicate directly, and pursue her with intention instead of leaving things to chance or pride. Not in a rushed or careless way, but in a grounded, confident way that says, I see you, I value you, and I'm not going to treat this like it's replaceable. Because the truth is, opportunities like that don't stay open forever. People move on, feelings shift, and timing doesn't reset just because you finally decided you're ready. And one day, looking back from the future, the regret isn't usually about what you tried and didn't get, it's about what you recognized too late and let slip away while you were waiting for a better moment that never came. Storyline for Now. Jay had always told himself he'd act when the timing felt perfect, when life was less busy, when he was more certain, when everything lined up just right. But then he met Mia, and something about her didn't fit into his usual excuses. She wasn't loud about it, but she was steady, thoughtful, and real in a way that made every other distraction feel smaller. They talked easily, laughed without forcing it, and even in silence there was a kind of comfort he couldn't ignore. Still, old habits crept in, overthinking, waiting, telling himself now isn't the time. Then one evening, as she stood at the station about to leave for a trip, Jay felt the weight of every moment he had delayed choosing anything real. He stepped forward before doubt could catch him, finally honest about what he felt and what he wanted instead of hiding behind hesitation. It wasn't dramatic or perfect, just simple and true. And in that moment he understood that now wasn't about timing at all, it was about not letting something real pass you by while you were busy waiting for certainty that never comes. Track number 4, No More. No More is a song about the quiet strength that comes from growing into yourself and finally learning what deserves your attention. It reflects a turning point where the past is no longer a place to live in, but a place to glance back at just long enough to recognize how far you've come. The lyrics carry the weight of old mistakes, foolish choices, and moments of self-sabotage, but they don't linger there, they move forward with intention. At its core, the song is about setting boundaries with your former self, refusing to repeat cycles that once felt familiar but ultimately held you back. Instead of chasing chaos or validation, there's a calm acceptance that growth means choosing peace over impulse. No More becomes less about what you've left behind and more about who you've decided to become, someone who respects their own progress and keeps walking forward with clarity. Storyline for No More. The song No More tells the story of a young person named Jordan who spent years chasing the same patterns, late-night mistakes, broken trust, impulsive decisions, and friendships that pulled them in every direction except forward. In the beginning, Jordan didn't think much about consequences, life felt like something to survive rather than shape. But after one particularly rough moment, losing someone who had always believed in them, they are forced into a kind of stillness they've never experienced before. In that quiet, Jordan starts noticing the cycle they've been stuck in, not with shame, but with clarity. The song follows their gradual shift, at first resisting change, then slowly learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Old places and people still call them back, but each time the pull weakens. No More becomes the turning point where Jordan finally chooses themselves, not in a dramatic, instant transformation, but in small, daily decisions that add up to something different. By the end, Jordan isn't claiming perfection, just direction. They look back once, not to dwell, but to understand how far they've come and then keep moving forward, leaving behind the version of themselves that once settled for less. Track number 5, Gang. Gang is a song about a close-knit group of friends who are often misunderstood from the outside, but deeply genuine on the inside. At first glance, people might judge them based on appearance, reputation, or how they move through the world together, assuming they're just another surface-level crew following trends or copying what's popular. But the truth the song highlights is that their bond is built on loyalty, real care, and shared values that don't shift with what's currently in style. They support each other through growth, mistakes, and life's pressure, without pretending to be something they're not. The lyrics also touch on how women, and people in general, are drawn to authenticity once they look past appearances, realizing that while many follow what's flashy or externally valued, this group stands out because of what's underneath. Gang ultimately becomes a celebration of depth over image, showing that real connection and character always outlast surface-level perception. Storyline for Gang. Gang follows a group of friends who grew up in the same neighborhood, bonded not by image or status, but by shared experience and quiet loyalty. From the outside, people label them quickly, judging their style, their confidence, the way they move together in public, but those assumptions miss the truth of who they are. The story centers on Marcus, the one who often notices how easily people get distracted by appearances, especially when it comes to how women in their city are influenced by whatever looks most popular or accepted at the moment. But everything shifts when a few new people actually take the time to be around them, not just watching from a distance, but seeing how they show up for each other when life gets heavy. Moments of real vulnerability come through, helping one friend through a loss, another through self-doubt, and another through a turning point where he almost drifts away but is pulled back by loyalty instead of judgment. Over time, what started as surface perception breaks down, revealing something deeper, trust that doesn't need to be announced, respect that isn't performed, and love that exists in action more than words. By the end, Gang isn't about trying to convince the world of who they are, it's about living it so consistently that the truth becomes undeniable, and those who once judged from the outside finally understand what was there all along. Track number 6, Dime. Dime is a song about self-worth, discipline, and the idea that men should hold themselves to standards just as much as they expect them from women. It reflects on the importance of not chasing love blindly, but instead becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts the type of partner he truly desires. The message is that attraction isn't just about appearance or luck, it's about effort, growth, and consistency in how you carry yourself, treat others, and build your life. If a man is willing to put in the work, mentally, emotionally, and in his purpose, he becomes worthy of the kind of woman he admires, no matter how beautiful she may be. Dime ultimately pushes the idea that you don't settle for less when you're actively building more, and that real connection comes when both people have invested in becoming their best selves. Storyline for Dime. Dime tells the story of Malik, a young man who used to move through relationships without much direction, often chasing what looked good on the outside without thinking about whether it was right for him or whether he was right for them. Over time, he starts noticing a pattern. The more he settles, the more he loses himself, and the more he idealizes women without building anything solid within himself, the more disappointed he becomes. That changes when he meets a woman everyone calls a dime, not just for her beauty, but for her confidence, standards, and the way she carries herself with purpose. At first, Malik assumes he has no real chance, but instead of chasing recklessly, he takes a step back and starts working on his own life, his habits, his mindset, his goals, and the way he respects himself. The story follows his quiet transformation, missed chances, moments of doubt, and the temptation to fall back into old behavior, but also his growth into someone more grounded and intentional. As he changes, so does the way people respond to him, including her. By the end, Dime isn't about getting someone, but about becoming someone who naturally aligns with what he once thought was out of reach, realizing that real connection happens when both people have done the work to value themselves first. Track number 7, By the Way. By the Way is a confident, high-energy hip-hop track about collaboration done at the highest level, where every artist is welcomed but never carried. The song sets the tone that features are invited, not as a shortcut, but as a challenge to match energy, creativity, and presence on the record. While there's respect for the other artist, there's also an unshakable competitive edge, with the mindset that once they step on the track, they have to face the music, because the goal is to make the best possible record, not a comfortable one. The narrator makes it clear that they're coming with full intent to dominate the song, pushing both verses to a higher standard and refusing to let anything sound average. By the Way becomes a statement piece in hip-hop collaboration, a reminder that the best features happen when egos are sharp, standards are high, and every artist is forced to rise to the level of greatness the track demands. Storyline for By the Way. By the Way follows the story of Jay, an up-and-coming rapper who has started making a name for himself through relentless work and a growing reputation for high-quality records. After gaining attention in his city, he begins receiving feature requests from other artists who see him as someone who can elevate a track. Jay agrees to collaborate, but not for the sake of simply stacking names. He sees every feature as a competition within a collaboration. The story centers on one major opportunity when a well-known artist reaches out for a joint track, expecting a smooth, easy session. But Jay approaches it differently. In the studio, there's respect, but also intensity. He makes it clear, by the way he records, by the energy he brings, that he's not just there to blend in, but to raise the standard of the entire song. As both artists lay down their verses, tension turns into inspiration, each pushing the other to perform at their peak. What could have been a routine feature becomes a standout record because neither artist is willing to be outdone. By the end, By the Way isn't just about ego, it's about the art of competition and collaboration, where greatness is achieved when no one is allowed to be average.